My name is Shawna. The first time I heard about being on the side of love was when Reverend Susan Frederick Gray put out a call and said, "Come to Arizona." And I thought, Arizona? Why should we go to Arizona? I mean, I know there's that bad SB 1070 law that has racial profiling, but if I'm not a lawyer, why should we go? Why should I go? And so I thought, well, I just have to go see for myself, if it's as bad as everyone says it is. I live in Omaha, Nebraska, which is in the middle of the country. And I had to get to Phoenix, Arizona. So I had to fly there to see if it was as bad as everybody said it was in Phoenix. And it wasn't bad. It was actually way worse than anything I could think of. Companies want cheap labor. So they'll put advertisements in international newspapers. And people living in these other countries will see these advertisements and will think, hey, if I can just get to the States, I can get a job. And so they will risk their lives crossing the desert to work back-breaking jobs at a cheap, cheap price. And people are able to undercut the competition and make a ton of money off of this. If they don't want to pay them anymore, if they get upset for them protesting, then they can decide that they're going to call the police and tell the police, hey, there's all these undocumented people here, come take them away. And the police will take these laborers to prison, in a for-profit prison, to jail, until they can figure out how to get them deported. And bosses and companies are happy about this, because they continue to make a profit off of this cheap labor, and they're able to put the advertisements in these newspapers again and start the cycle. Another horrible part was the elementary schools, where teachers, if they saw one of their students and suspected they were undocumented, were required to call the police to come arrest the student and take them to jail on suspicion of being undocumented, until they could figure out if they were a citizen to deport them. And teachers were wondering, is this my job? Is this what I'm supposed to do? To have my students arrested? To put kids in jail? It also had a devastating effect on the neighborhoods in Phoenix, because police raid vans could come in the middle of the night or at any time and bust into people's houses no matter what they were doing. And they could arrest people on suspicion of being undocumented. They could arrest families, parents, and leave the citizen children orphaned, or arrest the whole family and put them into jail, into the for-profit prison where they'd wait for months until they could figure out if they were going to be deported. And while they're waiting there, it costs a taxpayer expense. And this had a devastating effect on the neighborhoods as families disappeared overnight and everybody became afraid of the police. Because SB 1070 wasn't about if you were a citizen or not, it was if you looked like you were a citizen or not. Police could pull you over on suspicion of being undocumented and take you to jail. You were guilty of not being a citizen until you could prove it. And so the people said, these kinds of laws, they have to stop. And they invited us to be in solidarity with them. They organized an action where we would stop the raid vans by blocking the street, and we would surround the jail. And there was us doing that action, but there were thousands of people being on the side of love for these families and children about this issue. And what it was really about was a solidarity action, because the National Day Laborers Organizing Network, Somos, and Puente are organizations that have worked there for years on this issue, and we were arrested together. And there came a point in which I was alone, and I was really afraid of being alone in jail, because it was way worse than anything I could have thought of, where the deputies and the police officers would beat women. They beat the Latina women. They took a woman out of the jail cell, dragged her out by her hair, and beat her bloody. 3 men beating up 1 woman in the hallway. And so jail was far scarier than I thought it could be. I had no idea why I was alone. I had no idea how long I was alone. I wasn't the leader I thought I was. I wasn't like any of my heroes. And I thought about all the other people who are sitting alone in prison, who have no idea if anybody knows that they're there, who could be being beaten and we don't know, who don't have anybody waiting for them. After I got out, I did feel better because I realized that I hadn't been alone. Even though I was alone in the jail cell, there was people out there waiting for us. They were holding vigil. They made music. They called my family. My family called other family members. And they started calling my friends. And suddenly people were talking about this. And they joined the national conversation about, is this really what we want in our immigration system? Is this how companies should be able to undercut each other, or the for-profit prisons? Is this how families should be separated? And we started to think about what it would look like if we were on the side of love for these people, so that it was more just on both sides, and joined the national conversation about what a just immigration system would look like. And to me, this is what it means to be on the side of love, to advocate for the people who don't have anyone out there waiting for them, to harness the power of love to stop oppression. That's what it means to be on the side of love.